from BGC Philippines. Today we're going to talk about an interesting project called Coliving Semkovo, a project I'm considering buying an apartment with. And I'm going to give you some pros and cons. If this is your first time joining me, last week we talked about a cruise ship that sells apartments that I was thinking about purchasing a unit on. And you guys liked that so much that I figured I'd share with you another project I've been researching in Bulgaria that's kind of similar to the cruise ship, with I guess without the constant travel. But it's a way to purchase a property, a unit, an apartment in a foreign country for most of us, and be able to enjoy a little bit of nomad life at a pretty affordable price relative to some other places. But that's what we're going to talk about. So let me explain to you what co-living. Oh, by the way, after I discuss all this stuff, if this is your first time joining me, I'll jump into the chat and answer any questions that you have. I'm looking for my remote control to turn on my AC. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. All right, there we go. It gets hot here in the Philippines. Okay, so let me explain what Coliving Semkovo is. So you can go to, if you Google Coliving Semkovo, Semkovo, you'll find their website. And I'm gonna have that website open here, but I'm also just gonna go off the top of my head from the research I've done. Hopefully we'll have some people who have already purchased apartments from Coliving Semkovo in the chat. There's a couple that said they would show up here today if they had the time. So if you have a unit in Coliving Semkovo, just let us know in the chat. And after I talk about the pros and the cons of buying a place at Coliving Semkovo, then I'll jump into the chat and we'll do our normal chat about anything about what I just talked about or anything full-time travel. So it looks like we do have at least one person. We've got Ian, who is from Seattle, by the way, in here to talk a little bit about, to answer any questions or things I get wrong when I give you my brief. Because I'll be honest with you, so one thing I like about this project is they're not doing a bunch of marketing. They're relying on word of mouth in the nomad community to sell the project instead of coming up with all these fancy videos about it and Instagram marketing stuff about it. They're relying on word of mouth. So what they've done so far is actually really impressive. But anyway, let me explain to you what Coliving Semkovo is. So it's a pretty ambitious project located in the Villa Mountains in Bulgaria, which is at an altitude of about 1,600 meters. And for us Americans that don't know that metric system, that's about 5,200 feet. So about the same altitude as Denver. So you're pretty high up in the mountains there. And basically it's an old resort, a Soviet era resort built about 30 years ago that has kind of fallen into disrepair. And the project is being led by this guy, Matthias Zeitler. And I know him from Semkovo, Bulgaria. If you've ever been to Semkovo or done any research on Semkovo, I always say it wrong, but you know what I'm talking about, Semkovo, Bulgaria. He was one of the starters of the co-working space there in Semkovo that's pretty famous with digital nomads. It's bright orange, you can't miss it. But he's kind of the brainchild behind that. So he's been tapped into the nomad community for quite a long time. And he found this property in the mountains of Bulgaria and thought it would be a great idea to renovate the Soviet era resort and sell individual units to nomads, and then eventually the project will become a cooperative. So the owners of the units will control the property. So there are three there are basically three parts to the property. There's, oh God, I can't remember what they call it. It's like Arm A, Arm B, and Arm C. So Arm A and B are where the apartments are. So there's 250 apartments for sale. They've actually already sold about 200 of them. There's about 50 left. Yeah, there we go. They're called blocks. So you got block A, block B, block C. That's very Soviet era terminology too, by the way. There's block A, block B, and block C. So block A and B are where the apartments are, and block C is where the co-living area is going to be. There's a pool there because it used to be a resort, a covered pool. So that's kind of cool and appealing to me. It'll also be an incubator for small businesses and a co-working space. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here talking about it because there's so many things to touch. But basically, Matthias bought this big property, and now he's selling pieces of the property off. And eventually, once all the units are sold, the property will become a cooperative. So anyone who owns an apartment will have one vote. And what I like about that is no matter how many apartments you own, as an individual, you only get one vote. So there can't be a hostile takeover where someone, buys every apartment and now has a controlling share of the votes. You get one vote per owner, not one vote per apartment, which I really like. I think that's great, a great system for a cooperative. So I'm going to talk about the cost, and then we'll talk about the investment side of it, which to me is just a little added benefit. As someone, if I bought this place, I'd use it as kind of a vacation home, or I'd probably live there half the year. Maybe sometimes I'd stay the whole year if I can get visa issues worked out, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we'll talk about the investment stuff. But let me tell you what it costs now. So it was cheaper when it first started, but as units have been sold and time has passed, they've raised the price of the units. So now the cheapest unit you can buy is about 22,000 US dollars. And then the prices go all the way up to around 60,000, and that's a bigger unit. You can still get a unit with a balcony that has mountain views for around 33,000 US dollars. The units will have to be renovated, and you can either renovate it yourself and come in there and do it yourself, or there is a renovation crew there that's going from apartment to apartment and renovating the apartments. If you want the full renovation package, that is around 18,000 US dollars, and that includes complete renovation of the unit, because remember, these are old units, and full furnishings. And it's kind of like IKEA style. It's actually kind of cool if you like that modern kind of IKEA look. It's kind of like that kind of style. But you can go to the website and you can kind of see some of the examples. You can go to their Facebook page and their Instagram and see other examples of some of the renovations and those styles. So anywhere from around 40,000 all in to around 50,000 if you want a balcony unit, and you can have an apartment. For about an extra $4,000 to $5,000, you can actually add a kitchen to it, so you can have a fully functioning apartment in the mountains of Bulgaria for between $40,000 and $50,000. That's a pretty good deal. If you got the least expensive unit, it's around, like I mentioned, around 22,000. And so if you just got it renovated without furnishings, it'd probably be somewhere around 10,000 US. So you could still get in a unit for around 30,000 if you were just going to furnish it yourself. So pretty good deal, if you ask me. So the vision behind Semkovo is to create a self-sustaining community that integrates with the local area and provides kind of a remote work haven. The project is, again, in its early stages, but most of the units have been sold. The renovations have started on the apartments in the first block, which is block A. There's no apartments available in there anymore. All the apartments now are available in block B. And You can go online and look at the pictures of the co-working, co-living space that everybody owns, and it's pretty beautiful already, even without all the completed renovations. It looks like it's going to be pretty amazing, and none of the stuff you see is AI generated. It's all the work that has been done so far. Okay. I'm going to jump into, actually I'm going to talk about the investment side of it. So let's say you're like, I'm interested in one of these units, but I'm only going to stay there 3 months out of the year. Well, one of the selling points of this co-living community is the ability to monetize your unit. So you can rent it yourself. I'm assuming that Coliving Semkovo is also going to be let you put it into a rental pool if you want. And so you can make rental income off of it. Obviously, if the property appreciates in value, you're going to get some appreciation from owning the property if you want to sell it later, if you want to sell your unit later. And the third is, since it's a cooperative and the owners own it, the owners of the units own the property, all of the income that the co-living area, where the pool is and all the co-working spaces, and they're going to put a bunch of kitchens in there too for people who don't have kitchens so you can cook together. All the money that area generates is going to be distributed in the form of dividends to the owner. They estimate about 350 euros a year, so US dollar, that's about $380 a year. So not a huge amount of money, but a nice little side income. Some other things they're planning on doing in the building is they're planning on adding a restaurant and a grocery store. When I talk about the pros and cons, one of the things I'll mention is, and this is a pro and a con to me, is it's in a pretty isolated area. The nearest town is pretty far away. Sofia is, I want to say, about a 2-hour drive away. So if you fly into the Sofia airport, it'll be about a 2-hour drive to get there. Now they are organizing shuttles back and forth from there, and they're trying to do like a rideshare program where they have a drop-off spot at Coliving Semkovo for cars, so you could just rent a car via app and drive it to the airport if you wanted, or something like that. But they'll also have some kind of ride sharing, and that'll cost you about 20 euro. But I'd imagine if you hired like a driver, a local driver in the area, you could probably get a private person to drive you for about 100 US dollars, I'm assuming. There's not a whole lot in the area. There's like a family restaurant I've seen on Google Maps. There are some ski lifts, and the mayor of the local area wants to add a ski lift to the Semkovo area because obviously he sees that there's about to be 250 new residents into his small little town, and that's going to be a huge income generator. The co-living space plans to host events. If you don't know anything about Bulgaria, Bulgaria is kind of at the leading edge in Europe of like small business startup because their tax rates are so low there. The tax rate's only 10% on everything. It's like across the board. And so it seems like Coliving Semkovo would be an ideal place to host those kinds of events for different organizations. So I'm sure the mayor sees the boost that it's going to provide to the local economy. I'm sure it's already providing a boost with the renovations that are going on there and things like that. So very interesting. So now I want to talk to you about basically the pros and cons that I've come up with as I'm contemplating whether or not I want to buy a unit or not. So I've broken these pros and cons into different categories for me, and some of it will apply to you, some of it won't. But so the first pro for me is the affordable cost. So for around 40,000 US dollars, 40 to 50,000 US dollars, I can buy a fully renovated unit with a kitchen and a balcony that overlooks the mountains. And I own that place, it's mine. that's pretty amazing. By the way, I forgot to mention there is a yearly maintenance cost, and it ends up being around $100 a month or more, depending on the size of your unit. So if you just get a normal size unit, it's going to be about $100 a month. It's like 900 something euro a year. So it'll actually be a little bit less than $100. For heating and cooling, you get an inverter unit in there, AC unit. It's probably going to be about $50 a month, 60 US dollars a month. So I'm just giving you like the total cost. So once you buy the unit, the cost that you're going to have to pay to maintain the unit is going to be somewhere between $100 and $200 most likely, somewhere around there. If you get one of the really big units, like the 50-meter units, it'll probably be a little bit more. But if you get one of the small units, which most of them are, it's going to be about $100 to $200 a month to maintain your place there. Once you make that initial, once you place that initial, once you buy that initial amount, or once you pay the initial amount to buy the unit. Don't forget, you're going to get some dividends. Who knows what those are going to be? They're estimated to be about 300 euro a year. So that'll cut some of that cost down. It could be more, it could be less. Who knows what it's going to be? If you decide to rent your unit, you could possibly get a lot of it back. As someone who has owned Airbnbs near places that people do events, let's say you live in your unit, but you know there's a big entrepreneurial event coming to Co-Living Semkovo and people want to rent out units, you can make a lot of money off renting it to people like that want to have a place to sleep at the hotel that they're staying at. So anyway, you have some ways to earn income off the unit too. So maybe it'll be a cash generating unit. If you factor in everything, they estimate between a 14 and 17% return. For me, I don't really care about that. I probably wouldn't plan on renting out my unit. I like my stuff. I don't like other people to live in it. And so I probably wouldn't rent it out. It'd be great to get some dividends and things like that. That would be great. But the monthly reoccurring cost isn't that expensive. And if you stay there, 90 to 180 days a year, it's going to pay for itself. Okay, so I talked about the low cost. I talked about the rental income potential if you want to do that. I like the flexible ownership nature of it, so I can use my apartment full-time, part-time, rent it out. The cooperative will manage the rental if I want it to. I'm sure you have to give them a percent, which is fine. Or I can manage it myself. I can rent it myself if I want to do that as well. So here, the lifestyle and community benefits. These are my pros. So it's community driven. It's a cooperative model that encourages shared experiences, collaboration, and a sense of belonging among digital nomads and remote workers. So that appeals to me. It's kind of like a cruise ship where a lot of my audience is cruise audience for those coming from Coliving Semkovo, by the way, or van life audience. But it's very similar to the cruise ship where I can tap into things when I want to tap into it. For those who don't know, I'm very much an introvert. So I like to do things when I want to do them, and I like to not do things when I don't want to do them. So I like the idea of being able to tap into whatever's going on for the night there at Coliving Semkovo. Maybe there's karaoke, maybe there's board games. I know Matthias loves to play board games. Whatever it is, there's stuff that's going to be going on there that you can tap into, which is kind of cool. So I like that side of it. I love the digital nomad remote worker community. I don't call myself that because I'm technically retired, but I do manage my investment income. I do YouTube videos, so I guess I kind of do remote work. But I love that community of people. Another good thing is it's a supportive work environment. So it's a co-working, co-living type of area. So you're going to have reliable internet. And that's a big deal for me. I need good, fast internet. I don't want to live without it. And it's great that there I would have good, fast internet, even though I'm in a remote location. Okay, next up is the scenic and active location. So you guys know I'm a big hiker. I get my 20,000 steps in every single day. And it's set in Bulgaria's Villa Mountains, which is like a stunning landscape for skiing, hiking, climbing. Like I mentioned, the mayor wants to put a ski lift near the near Semkovo, which makes sense because it's this big influx of people that are going to be there, and they'll probably pay to ski. And so I don't know how to ski, but I love to learn. So it appeals to me in that sense. You guys know I'm very much a city person, but what I like about this co-living space, if they execute, is that everything will be at my fingertips that I need. If they have a grocery store on site and a restaurant on site, I'm like, that's great. I'm sure if you drop 250 plus people into a location, that some of the mom and pop restaurants there's going to be some that pop up, or the ones that are there are going to expand. And so if I can live in a beautiful mountain resort area and have everything at my fingertips, that actually would be ideal for me. It's one of the reasons I've considered moving to like Boulder, Colorado and places like that. I used to live in Everett, Washington, which was a beautiful place, very scenic, and I just love living in scenic areas, but I need my conveniences. I need to be able to eat out most of the time because that's what I like to do. And if there's a restaurant in there, I will be pumping money into that thing all the time. They'll love me there. So, and also if there's a grocery store in there. And I'm sure there'll be regular trips to Sofia and things like that organized by the community, so I can go there and buy the things that I'm addicted to, like the coffees I'm addicted to that I want to be able to make in my room and in my apartment, and the Diet Pepsi that I'm addicted to. So I'm sure there'll be regular runs for that. So it's affordable living. So like I mentioned, anywhere from 35,000 US to 50,000, I can have a nice place with an amazing view, a balcony, and after that initial cost, I own the place forever. It's not like the cruise ship where I only own it for 15 years. And my maintenance costs are somewhere between $100 and $200 a month, counting electricity and all that stuff. So very low cost of living, great way to lower expenses. You guys know I'm a frugal person, I'm a minimalist, I love living affordably. I mean, this place I'm in right now is $1,300 a month. So to be able to pay 50 grand for a place and then only have to pay $200 or $300 a month to maintain it, that's beautiful. Also, another thing is the future growth potential. By this project developing there, there'll probably be some regional infrastructure and government-backed tourist development, I'm sure, and that may boost the attractiveness and the property value of the place you own. I've already seen that they're like improving a road that goes there. They renamed the road Nomad Way. So the local municipality is already like on board with this. Like, hey, let's like give as much support to these guys as possible. These kind of things can go two different ways in life. One of it can be the community doesn't want that. And the other one can be the exact opposite, where the community recognizes what a huge boon it would be for the local economy and their real estate values if this thing takes off and co-living Semkovo becomes like this thing in the nomad community, like like Selena and things like that. So some of the practical advantages are hands-free management. I hate managing things. The only thing I'm in charge of is the stuff inside my four walls. I don't have to worry about anything to do with the property. That's going to be taken care of by the cooperative, and I don't have to worry about any maintenance or anything like that. I hate that stuff. And at a minimum, in my mind, this serves as kind of a retreat for me. We'll talk about visa stuff in a minute, But at a minimum, I know I can spend 180 days a year there without having to worry about a visa. And, you know, a lot of people don't like the winter. I love the winter. I love everything covered in snow. And so I would spend the winters there when I know a lot of people wouldn't. Someone asked if pets are allowed. Yes. So small pets are allowed, but there are strict rules. If your pet ever gets aggressive with somebody, it has to go. That's the rule, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. So you can have small pets like a cat, small dog. I think in the post it said goldfish or something like that. So you can have fish there if you want. So anything small and that wouldn't be a threat to other members of the community. The place is really focused on community, so it isn't just living in an apartment. It's kind of community based, which I really like. All right, let's talk about some of the cons. So you pay 22,000 US to around 50,000 for a unit, and it still has to be renovated, right? You own the unit, but it still has to be renovated. So you have to pay an extra cost. So the price of the unit is not the cost, right? You're gonna have to pay for renovations. Maybe you're really handy, you can go there and do renovations really cheap. I don't know. I'd imagine that's not most of the community, but maybe you can, or maybe you want to go there and pay contractors yourself. I would just have them do it because I've seen the quality of work they're doing and I'm good with it. Maybe when I got there and had it a few years, maybe I'd make some changes to some of the aesthetic stuff like the bathroom. I know I'm this weird like bachelor, and anytime I own a place, I like to install a urinal. I know that sounds crazy. I just like having a urinal in my place. That's very bachelorhood, but I'd probably install one of those in there at some point. They're easy to clean and maintain, and it's just easy, and I like them. So that's one of those funny things about me. But yeah, so beyond the initial upfront cost, there is the renovation cost, right? Number two is if you're buying this for an investment, you might have some negative cash flow with it. You know, who knows what the demand's going to be. All the demand, investment, return on investment stuff. I'm a full-time stock market investor. I've owned 7 rental properties in my life. I only own one now. But the only thing certain about rental properties is uncertainty, right? We could have another COVID event. It might not take off. It might be a complete disaster. People might not want to go to that remote location. There's a million things that can happen that if you're relying on cash flow for the place, like you're taking a second mortgage on your house to buy it, and you don't get that, you get negative cash flow, it might do you in. I'm not personally worried about that because I wouldn't use it for cash flow, but it's one of the things to consider. The next is the tax and legal complexity. So for those that don't know that are just joining, I'm also a lawyer, and I've read all their legal documents and they make a lot of sense, but obviously as a foreigner buying a property, you're still dealing with a foreign legal system. The good thing about Bulgaria is it has low taxes, but you are going to pay taxes on your rental income. If you live there, they have a 10% flat tax, which is great. Like if you're American, like you're like, whoa, that's amazing. So there's going to be some administrative challenges for you. You're going to have to get that figured out. Now there's a huge community. They have a WhatsApp group that you can join, by the way. It's not a private group. It's for people that are owners and interested in buying a place. You can ask questions in there. That's where I'm coming with a lot of this information for you. So make sure you go and join their WhatsApp group, but they also have a Facebook group and a Instagram page, Coliving Semkovo. You'll find it out there. But yeah, there's that challenges. So let's talk about the location challenges. So again, it's in a remote setting, and I mentioned this could be a positive and a negative. You're not going to have the urban amenities that you would have if you were in Sofia. So if that's something you rely on until they get that store and restaurant up and running, you might feel kind of isolated there without without like a lot of amenities and a lot of things going on. So it just depends on your personality. If you're someone that could live in a cabin in the woods alone, it probably won't bother you at all to be in a rural location, but you are in a rural location. So another thing is seasonal accessibility. So it's in the mountains and it's at 5,200 feet. So you're going to have, harsh winters might make the property less accessible. It might make it difficult to get there during the winter months, or difficult to get out, right? So there might be some issues with weather. I haven't asked that question, like how they're going to deal with weather, but that's going to be, that could be a potential issue. Another one is limited services. So I've looked on Google Maps as far out as I could, and I haven't been able to find a hospital. And so what is medical treatment going to be like there if you have a medical emergency or something like that? I'm a little bit older than probably the normal resident there. I'm 49, almost 50. I consider myself in relatively good shape, but you never know as you get older. If I was going to buy that place, I'm buying it for the long term. And so 10 years from now, I'm going to be almost 60. Like, what kind of medical facilities are in the area is kind of important to me. You also, like I mentioned, don't have any shopping nearby that I could find. So you're going to have to take a trip to shop. Again, if they put a grocery store on site and they have a restaurant and they're well stocked and there's a variety of different kinds of food, I can get hamburgers and French fries, I'm very American, I'll be happy. But as of right now, obviously there's some limits with those kind of things. And the last thing I'll talk about is uncertain outcomes. So the person who's doing this project, Matthias, I always say it wrong. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name if you're watching. But he has a long-term connection with the community, but you never know. Tomorrow he could run off with all the money. I know he does. They're very transparent. As a lawyer, I really appreciate that. So when you buy a unit, 10% of the cost of your unit goes directly to him. He is the one that owns the project, started the project. Eventually, when the units are sold, he will not be the owner. The unit owners will own the entire area as a cooperative. He owns a unit, so he'll be part of the cooperative, but he will not be the owner. So who knows? Matthias could run out tomorrow with all your money, right? I doubt that's going to happen. They've already put a ton of money into it, so what would be the point of that? But you always have that kind of risk. Another risk is the project just falls apart. Like, the community's not strong, the estimated cost to maintain the building wasn't correct, water pipes are busting, they find lead in the water, there's a million things that can pop up with an older building like this that could lead to issues where you need to charge the owners more. Their monthly homeowners association fee could drastically go up if some major repair is needed or something happens, a natural disaster, whatever it is, could sidetrack the project. There's also the community aspect of it, right? The community owner aspect of it. I'd imagine with 250 units being sold, I'd probably estimate there'll probably be somewhere between 150 and 200 owners. I know some people own multiple units, like Ian that's on here owns 2 units. And, you could have an entire ownership group that's absentee owners, and maybe the units aren't renting out and nobody's there to generate income and nobody's there to make sure the place is maintained properly. And that could become an issue when you're talking about a cooperative. From my experience in these nomad communities, especially when you're putting your own money at risk, I think you'll have a present and active ownership group, but that is a potential risk, right? Also, sharing spaces with other owners. I mean, there may be 10 people that, it's just like the cruise ship. When I was talking about buying a unit on a cruise ship, there may be a bunch of people that own units that annoy the crap out of you and you don't like being around. And now you own this unit, and every time you walk out of your unit, you run into them in the pool, and they're really obnoxious and they annoy you, and it's hard to avoid them, and now you don't go to the pool anymore because you love the pool, but you hate John because he's racist or homophobic or whatever it is he is that annoys you. And so there is potential community risk when you're talking about a cooperative like this. There is some community risk. And also, if you're an owner like me like if I can get a long-term visa in Romania or in Bulgaria, sorry, man, Bulgarians hate when you say Romania instead of Bulgaria and vice versa. I learned that a long time ago. There's a lot of animosity between the two countries. Bulgaria. So, where was I going with that? Oh, so me, if I can get a full-time visa there, I'm older, so I probably qualify for a retirement visa because I'm retired military, I have a military pension. And so if I get a retirement visa and I can spend a year there, sometimes I might spend the whole year there. And so I don't know how many people are going to live there full time, but there could become different classes of owners, right? The full-time residents, the part-time residents, the completely absent people buying it just as an investment property. So there could be like classes of owners too, right? They don't have any more votes, but there's a difference between living there full-time, living there part-time, and never living there at all and just renting it out. There's a difference in priorities between those three types of people. And so you run into some risk there as well. And the last thing is, as a niche investment, resale and rental market appeal might be limited because it's compared to like an urban property, like I mentioned before. So if you want to just rent it out, who knows if you're going to be able to rent it out and generate income from it. If you own it for a few years and you want to resell it, who knows if it's going to go up or down. It may be worth half as much. It may be worth triple as much. You know, there's a risk there. And so the last thing I want to talk about is visa. And so this is one of the things that's kind of a pain in the rear end for a Westerner. I mean, I don't want to complain too much because we still have it good, but Bulgaria is part of the Schengen now. And if you don't know, the Schengen is a bunch of countries, I'm probably saying it wrong, Schengen is a bunch of countries in Europe that allow that allow border-free travel in those countries, but it operates on one visa. So you get 90 days every 180 days. So I can stay at my apartment without getting a long-term visa for 90 days on a 180-day period. So I can stay 180 days a year without worrying about a visa, but it has to be broken up into two separate 180-day segments, which is kind of a pain in the rear end. And also, it limits travel I can do in the rest of Europe if I stay there for 90 days, in most of the rest of Europe, the ones that are part of the Schengen. So if I wanted to do a cruise out of Italy, a Mediterranean cruise, and then go back to my place in Bulgaria, those days I'm cruising in the Mediterranean in the Schengen are going to count against my time in Bulgaria. Bulgaria used to be separate from the Schengen, which was really nice. You got 90 days there, you could do 90 days in Europe. That's not the case anymore. So it is kind of a pain in the butt that if I can't get a long-term visa, I get 180 days in my unit a year, and I don't even get 180 days consecutive. I have to break it up into two 90-day periods in a 180-day period. I can't just stay there for 180 days, right? And it also limits my travel in Europe if I do that. So that's kind of a pain in the butt. Now, because I have a pension, I might qualify for the retirement visa. Luckily, there's not an age restriction on it. And so I might go that route, but some people might not be able to do that. And who knows if I'll get approved or not for that, who knows? I know my pension does meet their income requirements. It's somewhere around, I think it's like between 2,000 and 2,500 euros, so about 2,200 to 2,700 US, and my pension exceeds that. So I would definitely qualify for that from a pension perspective, but who knows when you apply for a visa. And then it's a 12-month visa, so I'd have to renew it every single year. I'm curious if Coliving Semkovo is going to have an attachment to a lawyer, because the project has owners from, I believe, 80 different countries now. So it'd be nice if they had some kind of like something that we could all tap into to handle those kind of issues for us. Anyway, sorry that was kind of all over the place, but I'm definitely considering buying a unit at Coliving Semkovo. They're completely done selling out the A block. There are still units in the B block. There's about 50 units left. So they've sold like around 70% of the units. And so I'm definitely right now in the process of looking at those. I wish the units on the 5th level had balconies. They don't. They have kind of this triangular window. But those units are super affordable, by the way. But it doesn't have a balcony. So if I was going to buy one, I'd probably get one with the balcony. I just like to have the outdoor space. So now I'm going to jump into the chat here. I know the chat's been spinning for a while. I've been going on for a while now. If you have a question, make sure you put a bunch of question marks in front of it, and that'll help me find it easily. I will scroll back up to try to find questions. And if I miss your question, it wasn't on purpose, please ask it again. I know we have Ian in here that owns a unit, and now we have Boyko in here, who I read is a lawyer. I read both of their bios. I learned that Ian is from Seattle or lives in Seattle. Actually, he's in Hawaii right now, which I lived there for 10 years. For those that don't know, I came of age there. I moved there at 18 and lived there until I was 30 with a 2-year break where I lived in Italy. But so I have a lot of connections with Ian and Boyko. I hope I'm not saying your name incorrectly, but Boyko is a lawyer, so we have that in common, which is really cool. And he's in the Philippines right now, so we also have that in common. So kind of cool. He's Bulgarian, and he owns unit A315, which is pretty cool. I have to look. They have maps of the different units that you can see, so I have to look at one of those units. What unit do you have? Do you have a balcony unit? Do you have one of the 30 square meters? So what's cool is the community seems really, really close, and you'll get that just from the general WhatsApp group, but they also have individual WhatsApp groups. They have one specifically for all the owners. Then they have WhatsApp groups for people who own the 30 square meter balcony, for people that own the 26 square meter balconies, because I'm sure they are talking about different design things they're gonna do. And then people that own the triangle window ones on the 5th floor, I'm sure they'll have a group. And then the people who own the ones that have like the 4 windows, the people that have the outward facing, the ones that have the inward facing to the little courtyard area that they're gonna have there. It's really kind of a cool community, and it's one of the things that appeals to me about Coliving Semkovo. Coliving Semkovo. They got to come up with a catchier name for it. CLK. We'll just call it CLK for now. Oh no, that wouldn't be CLK. It would be CLS. We'll call it CLS right now. But we have to come up with a cooler nickname for it. Boyko says the cooperative is already in place and voting is happening even during renovation. So that's awesome. Can you put in there some of the things that have been voted on so people kind of get a general sense of what people are talking about? Maybe it's like these are quiet hours or, whatever. The property is a cooperative already. We own the building, not Mateus. He owns a unit though, which is great. That's awesome. Very cool. Story, who is Ian, by the way. Story is Ian. He says, we'll have a rental system for the units and it'll be managed for you, or you can rent it separately on your own. Like that's probably what I would do. I have a bunch of digital nomad friends, and if they wanted to rent it from me, I'd probably rent to them because then I know whose neck to wring if something gets messed up. Like, I got my buddy Johnny FD out there that, spent a lot of time in Banksko. Maybe he'll want to use the unit, let me use his unit in Kiev. In exchange, I would do that. Like, hey, you can go use my unit and I'll use your apartment in Kiev. Something like that. The nearest town is called Belitsa. I know I'm saying it right, which is about a 20-minute drive via a brand new mountain road. Banksko is further. It's about 25-minute drive. So that's cool that you have access to Bansko. I didn't realize it was that close to Bansko. Does Belitsa have a supermarket, a mall? What does it have? Or is it like a small mountain town? Kind of like Bansko. New boarding vlogs is in the house. Hey, thanks for being a channel member. I appreciate that. Thanks, Going Green Mom, for moderating. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Maxine. We sometimes joke that the building is a land cruise ship. That's what appeals to me about it. And it's insanely more affordable than buying a unit on a cruise ship. And you own it for forever. And I like being able to have a place in a winter area where I can just have all my clothes there. For those of you joining the chat from Coliving Semkovo, you probably don't know much about me, but I am a minimalist. I am a one-bag traveler, a carry-on only traveler. I don't travel with much. So it'd be nice to be able to just hop on a plane without having to bring anything there. I should already have shoes there to work out, to hike in. I should already have cold weather stuff there. That would be really cool in my opinion. And you know what I would do? Here's what I would do for my YouTube audience. I'd probably do it for channel members, but maybe, and I'd probably add my moderators in there since they do so much work, or subscribers that have been long-term subscribers. But maybe I'll gift a month a year there to somebody in my subscriber base if I buy one of those units. Because if I get a long-term visa, I probably would stay there over 6 months a year. But I know there would be months I wouldn't be there. And that would be a cool thing to do, to maybe raffle off a month in the unit or something like that. That'd be kind of a cool thing to do. Story ID says we have 5G and Starlink as well. Have used them both. It's great internet because they're two local university-owned ski houses in the same area. That's interesting to know. So there's a university-owned ski house. Very cool, very cool, very cool. KB says, did you say Everett, Washington? Yes, I lived in Everett, Washington for 3 years. When I was in the Navy, I was stationed there. I used to own a really cool condo there. If you've ever been to Everett, Washington, it's a different color now, but it used to be this big red, blue, and yellow condo building that stood out in the skyline. And it was awesome. I had this amazing view of the water. I loved it. One of my biggest regrets in life is selling that condo. It's for a couple different reasons. Number one, I loved it. And number two, it's worth 3 times what I sold it for now. So, yeah. Watched a video from one of the couples on Villa Vie cruise ship. It was interesting. I don't think it's for me, but I love their excitement. Yeah, for those who are watching from Coliving Semkovo, is it Kovo, Kova? I've mispronounced everything. Semkovo, probably Semkovo. Villa Vie is a cruise ship that sells cabins, and you have a monthly maintenance fee after you purchase your cabin, but it's your cabin. You can design it however you want. It's kind of a cool concept, very similar to Coliving Semkovo. For those that don't know that are just joining from there, last year I lived on a cruise ship for a year. Every year I travel a different way. My first year I traveled with a travel program called Remote Year. If you're a digital nomad, you probably heard of it. I did that for a year, lived in a different country every 30 days. Then COVID hit, I bought a van. I did van life in the United States for a year. The next year I flew over to Thailand, bought a motorcycle, motorbiked around Thailand. And then last year I lived on nothing but cruise ships, and now I'm just kind of hopping around country to country, currently in the Philippines and BGC, Philippines. And I'll be on cruise ships again until May, starting at the end of January. So yeah, I'm really interested in Coliving Semkovo. I have like 50,000 bucks burning a hole in my pocket, and the stock market it keeps hitting all-time highs, and I kind of like am looking for other places to put some of my money right now. So Apple G, hey, what's going on, man? He says, I'm still waiting for a vlog, Kevin. I know, man. You could sell half of one of your Bitcoin. Apple G has like 1 million Bitcoin. You could sell like half of one of them and buy a place in Semkovo. You could just buy it for me. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Boyko says there's already a functional small ski resort in Semkovo. The mayor wants to expand it, but it's already functioning. But you can easily do freestyle cross country there. Fantastic pass. That's good to know. I don't know how to ski, but I would love, it seems like something I would enjoy. And as I get older, I'm looking for sports that are less hard on my body than the ones I like to play, which is like football and basketball. So now Boarding Vlog says, I used to have a travel channel about U.S. national parks, but all the permits and other changes forced me to let it go. Yeah, I remember when they did that. I was traveling in my van and I was going to a bunch of national parks, and there was a whole thing like you couldn't film at the national parks, which is just ridiculously stupid. But anyway. Boyko says, Kevin, there will be a grocery store in the building. Yeah, my fingers crossed that happens, but a lot of times projects say they're going to do something and they don't do it. So in my mind, I'm like, if it happens, it's a bonus. But I know, like, for example, Villa Vie said they were going to have like one of those digital golf courses on board. They were going to have in their inside cabins like a wall that showed you the outside, and they didn't do it. So a lot of times, like, those things don't end up materializing, or they're just not profitable, and so they shut down. And so, like, that's a big selling point for me, that they would have a grocery store inside and a restaurant. Those are two big selling points for me. I'm very much an urban dweller, and I eat out every day, but I'm a creature of habit as well. Like, I can eat a hamburger every day, or I can eat, the same thing every day. It doesn't bother me, but I don't like cooking. So I would love that. So can you tell me, it sounds like you know about the local area a lot. I saw on the map that there's a family restaurant a few blocks away from the resort. Actually, when you click on the family restaurant, there's actually a picture of Coliving Semkovo there. Like, it looks like an older picture of the resort that someone took from the restaurant. So it makes me think it's pretty close, but who knows how often it's open. So I'm curious about those kind of things. Like, are there local restaurants that are a short walk away? Or maybe like if you had a bike, you could bike over there, or a scooter, you could scooter over there, or whatever. Okay, I'm trying to catch up here. Sorry about the downtime. So story says pets are allowed, but not in the co-living areas, which I really like. Like it's great. Like have your pet, but don't force other people. Like I'm allergic to cats. Like I don't want people bringing their cats in the co-living areas, in the co-living spaces because I'm allergic to them. So I like that. And you know, some people might be allergic to dogs or just not like them. So I like that. I mean, I love dogs, but I like that you can't bring them into the co-living areas. Like that should be the rule. Like take them out, you know, have them in your apartment. Obviously when you're transiting outside, inside or whatever, but not in the co-living areas. Calvin says, hey, Kevin, just tuning in to see how you've been. Nice to see you. Thanks, man. Thanks for jumping in here. I appreciate it. Hey, if you don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, I would appreciate it. I feel like buying a cheap condo in Jomtien or having a simple with fiber optic internet as a home base to always be able to travel would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, Jomtien, it used to be really affordable there. It's not as affordable anymore unless you're in an older building. Story says we have a great attorney that helps with the co-op and everything in Bulgaria, even things like paying property taxes and so forth. So what are the property taxes? Because that's not listed in there. Is that included in your maintenance fee or is your property taxes on your unit separate? And what are the property taxes? Is it 10%? I mean, I know they have like a 10% flat tax. Someone's asking what I have to pay taxes on my U.S. earned income. As far as I've done my research on it, and as far as I can find, I would not have to. Even if I lived there permanently, I wouldn't have to pay unless I earned income there. So maybe on my YouTube income, maybe, I don't know. But that's in a US-based LLC, so I don't know if I'd have to pay. I don't know. I'd have to pay taxes on that. My dividend income, no. They do have a tax treaty with the U.S. too, by the way, which is great. So no dual taxation. But I mean, heck, if I could get residency there and only pay 10%, that would be amazing. That's way less than I pay in the U.S. But you know, that would be a longer down the road conversation. The closest big hospital is 50 minutes away in Roslaug. That's good to know. If you want to be around everything, is this the right place? So this would be more of like a mountain retreat destination. And depending on how it evolves, it could feel like you live in an urban area. If they have a restaurant, you know, I'm assuming that it's going to have a gym. It has an indoor pool, which is amazing. So year-round swimming. I'm assuming the co-living area is going to have a lot of activities driven by the residents. It's going to be, I'd imagine, similar to a cruise ship in that respect with the different events that go on. So you could have a small urban feel to it if it goes like projected in a beautiful mountain community, right? So that would be the hope, and that would be like what I would desire it to be. Like, yes, it's in a rural setting, but it has an urban feel because of all of the conveniences in the place. You know, if the grocery store and the restaurant that's on site are profitable, then like why not? And if the residents are bringing a lot of money into the local economy, then other things are going to pop up. Like if someone in a mile away starts a little store, it's probably going to be used by the residents. Or a little mom and pop restaurant. It's probably going to be used by the residents. I personally think Mateus is going to run off with the money. He'd have done it if he was going to, he would have done it when we put it in to buy the building. There's not as much to run off with now. That's a good point. Plus, he's very known in the nomad community and he would not be able to hide. So if you've been involved in the digital nomad community for any amount of time, you know who he is. He hosts the second biggest, it might be the first biggest now since Nomad, it's called Nomad Fest. And the one Johnny FD hosted used to be the biggest, but I think Nomad Fest might be the biggest now since the one Johnny FD hosted kind of fell off. I know they're doing one this year, but yeah, it might be the biggest now. And he also was like one of the original founders of the co-working space in Banksco, basically put Banksco on the map. Not to offend anybody from Banksco, but I had no idea what it was until I saw all my YouTube buddies making videos about it, living there in Banksco for a month or two out of the year. So yeah. Maxine says, beware of the old building. Yeah. I mean, I own a lake house right now that was built in the same time frame. And yeah, you got some issues with it, but if you look at the renovations of the place, like, I'll be honest with you, when I first saw some of the pictures of the co-living spaces, I thought it was AI generated because it's wall of windows, all these like hanging lights. It looks really modern and beautiful. I thought it was AI generated. And then I was watching, I do my research. I was watching a bunch of videos with Mateus. And in one of the videos, he says, these are not AI generated videos. And then I saw some videos of them walking around it and it looks exactly the same. I mean, it's gorgeous, right? And you're nestled in the mountains. So you have mountains all around you. In the summer, it's all like green pine trees and beautiful green mountains. And then in the winter, it's all white, it's a winter wonderland. So it looks like in a very beautiful location. And by the way, they do, I think it's weekly tours of the building. So you fly into Sofia, they'll pick you up, they'll take you to Coliving Semkovo. They're not sponsoring me, they're not paying me any money, they're not giving me a break on my unit by talking about it. I just think it's a really interesting project. Even if I don't buy into it, I'll probably visit it anyway. I'll rent somebody's unit out. But I am seriously considering buying one, like seriously considering it at the moment. Because I have some free capital and I just haven't, like I can't find any good place to put it right now. Everything is so expensive investment-wise. So I'm definitely considering it. But where was I going with that? I can't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, I'm not worried about Mateus running off with the money. He'll be found pretty easily by the nomad community. And Mateus is just in this whole thing to get people to play board games with him because he really likes board games. So that's his whole motivation for this. So far, they've been good with renovations. We've redone the roof, electricity, water, floors, etc., and all has been okay. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. If you know anything about the Soviet era buildings, they're actually pretty solidly built. Like, you can clown the Soviet era all you want, but one of the things they actually did do a good job at was build recreation areas for their citizenry. And this is one of those that just fell in disrepair because it was abandoned after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And who knows, for a million different reasons, maybe it wasn't economically viable to keep it anymore. And so something like this co-living, cooperative type of thing that Mateus is doing is a way to revitalize it, and I actually love it. I'm a huge supporter of it. And it's not like you're paying 200,000 US dollars for it. You can get into a unit renovated for under 40,000 US dollars with monthly expenses after that initial payment of only a couple $100 a month. So if you're in a decent financial position, even if, you know, Russia comes in and takes over Bulgaria, which isn't going to happen, and you lose all your money, then it's not a huge loss. So. Someone said there's bios. So there are bios of some of the owners on Coliving Semkovo. Boyko's in there and Ian's bio's in there. That's how I know about their background. Their bios are in there. So, and there's a bunch of other bios, and it's very like it's a very international community. I want to say it's 80 different countries are represented in the owners, which is really cool. I mean, that's really cool. Is there a marketing plan already how this place is going to be advertised and offered to rent? I saw the co-op is looking for a marketing manager. So if you go to their website, there's a fact page and there's some stuff about it. There's a FAQ page and there's stuff about that in there. Not super in depth, but if you go to the WhatsApp page, Matthias is on there as well, and he'll probably chime in as well on that. Lots of hikes and no one has seen a bear yet. I was going to ask you about bears. I don't even know what kind of bears they are. Are they brown bears or black bears? Black bears, easy peasy. Brown bears, that's a different story. So Ian says there's a lawyer on staff. So I'm sure the lawyer helps with the paperwork for the unit, but would the lawyer help with long-term visas? Like, could you hire her to do that? I mean, I know like that might not be her specialty. Or is there a visa company that Coliving Semkovo is attaching themselves to that'll help out residents getting their visa? For me, that's one of the big things is being able to go there and stay there whenever I want and not being restricted by the annoying Schengen stuff. Marcia says it's hard if you don't speak Russian. I think it would be a great idea to visit before you move to Bulgaria. Absolutely. I've been to Bulgaria before. I've been to Sofia. I love it there. It's beautiful. We're kind of spoiled as English speakers. Like, I had no problem there. And the official language of Coliving Semkovo is English. That's in their FAQ, by the way. But it's an international group. I mean, there are some people from Bulgaria that live there, that have bought places there. But like I mentioned, it's 70 or 80 different countries. And so, you know, we kind of have that benefit that English is so widely spoken now that it's easy for us. Lisa says, what about electric, internet, etc.? So if any of the owners can answer that question about internet and electricity, that would be nice. She's asking if someone needs to set up their own account, or is it included in the monthly maintenance fee? I'd assume since the monthly maintenance fee is so inexpensive, it doesn't include that, but it'd be really nice if it did. I like places that put it all together and I just have to pay one monthly fee. But I get it, like they're probably separately meter it, because if you're never there and you don't have your electricity on, you don't want to be paying for the electricity of someone that lives there full time and using electricity and is running their Bitcoin miner or something in their room or something like that. Vishal is in here and says, nice to meet you all. I have 2 units as well in Block A and super happy with the project's progress. So Vishal, are you buying it as an investment, or are you buying it to live there part-time, maybe rent the other one out? Or like, what is your plan with your units? I'd be interested to know. KM says, Ian has been doing a great job answering questions. Yes, thank you. I'm just repeating them, so if someone's joining the chat late, that they hear it. Everything is done through the co-op except water and power. You pay for that directly with meters for your unit directly, but the co-op helps with the setup, so that's awesome. So at least the co-op helps you set it up. Let me ask you this question. Here's a question for you guys. Can I pay the stuff digitally without having a bank account in Bulgaria? Like if I have a credit card and I want to set automatic payments to pay my homeowners association fee, my electricity, am I able to do that? I hate when I have to like think about that stuff. I like when I can just set it up automatically comes out. I don't have to think about it. Solo says, I like the idea of sharing a unit and maybe swapping off when you're 90 days. Yeah, that actually might be a smart idea for some people that don't plan on using it full time. I mean, you can get a balcony unit for, 45,000 US fully renovated, so 20 something thousand a piece, and then you each get it 180 days a year. That's actually pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. And then you split whatever rental income you get. I guess you could absorb the rental income during your time period if you want to rent it out. Like you could come up with an agreement between the two of you. But yeah, that might be a decent idea. Or even with 4 people where you each stay there 90 days. So 4 people buy 1 unit and pay $10,000. I don't know if that's possible, if they would allow that, but yeah, that'd be interesting as well. Like almost like a timeshare. I personally wouldn't do that because I'd want my own space, but that's just me. Vishal says, both of my units are connected, but can be used independently. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Kevin, we have storage areas you can add as well, so you can store shoes and clothes and skis and still rent out your place. That's good to know. Good to know. So are those storage units, do you buy them or do you rent them? I think it would be good for the co-op to rent them, because then that would be a cash flowing opportunity. But I think I saw that they sell them. Personally, I think it would be a better idea to rent them and get reoccurring revenue from them than to actually sell them. But I think they actually sell them. You may have already answered it, but what is the political climate like? Is it stable? So just from my experience in a big city like Sofia, it's very liberal. It's very like any other big city. But there is a conservative nature to the country. They're very Catholic. I would say it's kind of a lot like the Philippines, like they're very Catholic. So there is that side of it. So you just have to understand that when you come here, understand that the cultural significance of the Catholic Church there, kind of like when you come to the Philippines. KB says, if you ever want a 2-bedroom condo in Bothell to rent out, I got you. I might take you up on that. I love visiting Seattle. I'm a huge Rams fan, so sometimes I go to Seattle to watch the Rams Seahawks game. KB is based in Kent, Washington. Very cool. Oh, no, Story Ideas, sorry. But he's in Hawaii. Boyko says the country is an EU and NATO member. We get a lot of support from the municipality, which is stable. National politics might be a mess, but nothing different than lots of other places. Yeah, I mean, nothing different than any other place. It's a mess. You have your two primary factions, conservatives and liberals, no matter where you go, that rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall, right? Boyko's answering my question. There are a couple of seasonal eating places within walking distance. Right now, it might still be a hit or miss on working hours and quality. Well, that's good to know. I bet you those places, as the community starts moving there, those places will definitely adjust to that. I'd imagine it's going to be a huge boon for them. My property taxes were about 20 euros this year. So there you go, 20 euros, which is about 22 US dollars. And I think Story ID owns 2 units. So was it 10 euros a piece property taxes? That's ridiculously inexpensive. I mean, I pay that, I think, every couple days for my lake house that I own. Once the place is up and running, I'm sure other businesses would also want to cater to us. Yeah, I think so too. It'd be nice if there was like a grocery delivery service. You know, I'm so addicted to, here in the Philippines, Grab for ordering food. Like I order my food all the time. I have a grocery store in my building. I love the convenience of that. And if the building had a restaurant with halfway decent food and a grocery store, I would be in heaven. They would make so much money off me. I mean, I bought a bunch of Grab stock over the last year because I know how much money I spend on Grab, which is kind of like Asia's Uber. And yeah, I know I would spend a lot of money in a restaurant and store in there if they had one. Scott A says, I saw that the mayor of Ballista is vice president of the Dalen Petsy Party. Dalen Petsy was sanctioned by the U.S. under the Magnitsky Act. Is this a risk for the project? So everything, like, when I'm in foreign countries, I stay out of their politics. And I think that's like the best case scenario. So there's really not a huge difference between the two political or multiple political parties in foreign countries in my experiences. And everything I've seen about the mayor in that area is that he is catering to this project and like really wants to see it succeed. So yeah, it seems like he's definitely pro Coliving Semkovo. Sorry, I'm trying to get caught up here. Carolina says, I'm a little bit lost in the conversation. Well, rewind and go watch the beginning, and you'll hear me talk about this project called Coliving Semkovo that I'm thinking about buying an apartment in. Last week, I talked about possibly buying an apartment on the Villa Vie, and that video was so popular, I figured I would share the research I've done on this other co-living type of travel destination that I'm thinking about investing in. $80 different owners from 32 different countries so far. Okay, that makes more sense. I was 70 different countries. I was like, oh my God, that's a lot. So right now there's 80 different owners from 32 different countries. Still, that's pretty multicultural, which I like that. Kevin has money burning a hole in his pocket and is debating about buying an apartment in a co-op living. Oh, you're explaining to her. Story says, not sure about the bears. No one has seen one, but there's a bear rehabilitation center not too far away. Secured, not roaming wildly. Super cool. That sounds pretty cool. Story says, Lubka, our lawyer, will help with other legal matters like working on residency and so forth. Her husband is also a lawyer. Okay, very cool. Story says, we plan on having regular shuttles to Banksko and Sofia. Our chairman has done this for co-working Banksko in the past to Sofia. Okay, that's very good to know. There are 225 units with people coming and going, lots of people to meet, rides to share, to town and adventures. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of, there'll be WhatsApp groups where they say, hey, we're going to Sofia today, grocery shopping. If you want to join us, or if you need us to pick something up, I'm sure there'll be a ton of that. Story ID says I paid everything through Revolut and Wise. I don't have either one of those, but I probably should get them. He paid his taxes and his garbage bill through Revolut. Okay, let me ask you a story ID, a question, Ian. So what are your monthly expenses for each unit? When you prorate everything, what are your monthly expenses after you've paid for? I know you own 2 units. So number one, what are the size of your units? And what are your monthly expenses? What are your utilities, your taxes, your homeowners association fee, and any other fees that you have to pay? Utilities. What are you paying to own that unit? And then if you're not paying, if you're not paying everything that you're supposed to pay yet, for whatever reason, what do you estimate the cost per month for your unit to be? I think monthly cost is something that is important to a lot of people once they make that initial cost. How is the kitchen set up? So they have some pictures of the kitchen. It's just a really small, European, Asia kitchen, if you're familiar with that. I mean, obviously the units are small. They're most of the units are anywhere from 25 square meters to 30 square meters. They do have some bigger units that are on like the corners where they've knocked out walls and made the units bigger, like 50 square meters, but most of the units are somewhere between 25 and 30 square meters. So it's going to be a smaller kitchen. It's going to be like small refrigerator. I saw it had like a dishwasher. Like I wouldn't want that. I just wash my own dishes. I'd rather have like a small washing machine there personally. I don't know if that's possible, but I'd rather have a small washing machine there. I know they're gonna have washing machines on premise, but I like washing my own, I like being able to wash it in my unit. And I would rather have that than a dishwasher because I just wash my dishes. And then I'll have one of those like electric stove burners, and then some cabinets, and then a sink, obviously. So, but it's not very big. It's like an IKEA style type of thing. But if I was going to buy a unit, I'm probably going to buy like a 30 square meter with a balcony, and I would have a kitchen there. And then they have kind of like this, in their furniture display, they have kind of this divider that kind of maybe divides the kitchen a little bit from where you would sleep. But these are like hotel size rooms, so you just got to understand that. Kind of like this right here, like my unit is here. And so they're small units, they're not big units. I'd have to look up how many feet 30 square meters is. I don't know off the top of my head, but if someone knows that, I'd probably say it's probably around 150 to 200 square feet, probably somewhere around there. So they're not big. Understand, they're not big. Do some of the owners bring their children, although they're not allowed to enter the co-op areas? That's a good question for the owners that are already in here. So I know kids are not allowed in the co-living spaces, which I like. It's kind of an adults-only community, which for me, that's great. I don't mind kids. I just don't want to be around them. I know that sounds terrible, but I say that all the time about cruising. Like I don't mind kids. I just don't want to cruise with them. And it's the same. I just want to be around adults. I don't want a bunch of kids around, especially in a space that I own. There's a pool there. I want to go and relax at the pool. I don't want a bunch of kids splashing and playing in the pool. So I like that it's adults only in all those co-owned spaces. I like that. But I'm sure as an owner, you could bring your kid with you to your unit. But the kid would be hating life because they couldn't go to the pool and all that kind of stuff. Are they all renovated the same way unless you hire your own people? Or can there be changes made to the design? And I believe you can renovate it yourself or hire somebody. I'm not sure if let's see. Actually, someone answered this already. You can renovate, however, you can use our staff to renovate where you pick from various preset options. Okay, so you could mix and match. If you've seen the pictures of it, it looks really nice. It kind of looks like this behind me. It's kind of like modern looking, IKEA, like IKEA looking, I think is a good example, which is very common in Europe, obviously. That's where IKEA comes from. Kids are allowed in the apartment, of course, just not the co-working area where people are trying to work. And we have alcohol and things like that. Yeah, it makes sense not to have kids in those areas. Plus, just me personally, I don't want kids in those areas. How much more expensive has Jomtien gotten? I mean, it's gotten much pricier since COVID to rent and to buy there. I'd probably say double what it was during COVID. Story says, since it's a co-op, we can vote to change the rules. Yeah, I would be okay with kids going to the restaurant, things like that. It would pain me if they voted to let them go to the pool because then you got to deal with kids in the pool. And, you know, I just want to go there and read and do some work on my laptop. So that would annoy me personally. But if the community voted that it was okay, then that'd be okay. Story says right now it's under $100 a month for each unit. Studio units, including the association, maintenance, garbage, and taxes. No water or power charges yet, not till we open. Okay, so right now, all in on a unit, a studio apartment unit, with your association fees, your garbage, your taxes, it's $100 a month. I've looked at estimates in that area online for utilities, and it's been about $50 a month. So, and that's running your AC during the summer. So it's going to be more in the summer, less in the winter months, because it just costs less to heat a place than to cool it. And so you're talking $150. If you buy a unit, it's going to be $150 to $200 a month, all in. That's pretty freaking good. I mean, that's, you know, $1,800 to $2,400 a month, all in. You've already paid for the unit, so you've got that sunk cost, obviously, but that's what you're paying. And if you get those dividends, if you don't rent out your unit and you only get the dividends, and it's what they project, which is about 300 euros a year, then that reduces that monthly cost for you as well, from the dividends that you get from the, people renting out the spaces to host conferences and things like that. So that would be pretty cool. And I'm assuming whatever money the store and the restaurant generates. That's why I was talking about like those storage units. They should have kept them owned by everybody and rented them out, and that would have been another revenue generator. But I'm all about maximizing the revenue generation. But that's probably because I don't need a storage unit, because I'm a minimalist. I'm being kind of selfish, I guess. Uh, 30 square meters is 322 square feet. So about RV size. That's a big RV though. Like I lived in a van, which would be probably like 30 square feet or something like that. So 322 square feet. So that's bigger than a cabin on a cruise ship. But like this apartment I'm in right now is probably 400 square feet. All the units have a bathroom and a closet, by the way. So you have a bathroom and closet, and then you can add a kitchen to the unit as well. So it's not, you have a bathroom. Plus, I failed to mention this, but if you look at the pictures of the concept of the place, they're going to have a huge kitchen area with multiple preparation areas. So the co-living space will have kitchens. So you can go and cook down there and things like that. If you want to cook, you can go. I'm assuming at some point there'll be some innovative entrepreneur that will set up a cooking class, or maybe that could be a revenue generator for Coliving Semkovo. You have a chef that lives on site that hosts, a cooking class every night, and you make your own dinner based on the cooking class that this gentleman does, and it costs you $20 or whatever, $10, whatever price would make it profitable to be able to pay the chef, to be able to teach the class, and also you could make a meal where all the ingredients are provided for you, and he teaches you how to cook it, or whatever. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. I hope there's like a lot of entrepreneurial stuff like that going on. Like, I would like to be able to have my unit cleaned if I want by someone, and that I would pay for. So it'd be great. I'm assuming there's going to be staff that cleans the rental units. You're going to have someone that cleans them, right? If some people are renting them out. So I would love to be able to tap into that and pay to have my unit cleaned whenever I decided I wanted someone to like deep clean it or something like that. A lot of us like kids, but don't want them under our feet. Yeah, I like kids. Like I love my nieces and nephews, you know. My only concern is the Schengen rules. Yeah, I mean, if you own a place there, you're going to get 180 days a year as a Westerner for the most part. And if you want anything beyond that, then you're going to have to get a long-term visa and apply for it. I've only done research on the retirement visa because I have a pension. And so I know I would be able to qualify for that one, and it'd probably be easy. So I haven't done anything beyond that, but I'm assuming there are other ones too. There are real estate purchase visas, but investment visas, but there's a minimum amount required. It's like $300 and something thousand. So I don't think these units will qualify for that. But maybe it's something down the line that if you own a property there, that you're able to apply for a long-term visa. It'd be great if it was a segue into one of those like golden visas where I could travel all over the Schengen visa free. That would be amazing, like a golden visa. When you travel 100% in one backpack or carry-on suitcase, I find it difficult to one backpack with iPad, Mac, clothing, 2 pairs of shoes, socks, and toiletries. I don't find it difficult at all. I mean, right now I'm using my suitcase as to raise my desk up. But if you go in the description of this video, you'll see a link to it. It's the level 8 carry-on. It's actually pretty big. I have 3 pair of shoes. You're gonna wear 1 pair of your shoes. So wear a pair of shoes, and then I have 2 other shoes. One of them is a pair of sandals, so it's really small. And I'm able to fit those in there, and then you just stuff it full of clothes, and that's it. I mean, you don't really need anything else. I always buy like deodorant, because I stay long-term in places, at least 30 days. I always buy shampoo and deodorant when I get there, so I don't have to carry any of that stuff. The only thing I carry is toothbrush, something to shave my head with, and that's it. And sometimes a small tube of toothpaste, just in case it takes me a day or two to find a store to get stuff in. But Story says, yes, we'll have staff to clean and maintain, and you can pay for cleaning on your own unit while you're there. And also laundry. So wait a second. So there's a laundry service. I can send out laundry and get it brought back to me. Is there a laundromat in the co-living area? So I can do my own laundry. I have a lot of merino wool, and I don't like other people doing my laundry. But everything but my merino wool, I would definitely use the laundry service. That's a good income generator too, by the way. Sounds like there's a lot of different income generators for the co-living space, which is great. I'm not even concerned about like the dividend. I'm concerned about that money being reinvested in the place to make it as amazing as possible. Before buying a unit, maybe rent one out and see how it goes. Yeah, the problem is you can't really rent them out right now, and there's only 50 units left, only a handful of balconies, and so you might have an issue buying one later. And I never FOMO into anything. I do my research and all that stuff, so this is not something I'm going to FOMO into. At a minimum, you can put down, it's like a 500 euro deposit to hold a unit. And then I think you have to pay 25% of it. So at a minimum, I guess you could back out and lose 500 euro, or if you've already put 25% down, lose the 25%. But because the earliest I would be able to visit is probably in May. I'll be in Europe in May. I'm doing the cruise ship thing. I'm getting off in Southampton, England in May, so I would go visit in May. but I might have to buy a unit before then to get one of the ones I want. So we'll see. You buy shampoo? Yeah, I don't buy shampoo. I meant body wash. Obviously, I don't buy shampoo anymore. Yes, we'll have laundry facilities, and if you want, you can have a washing machine in your unit too. I like that. Okay, good, 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 good. Yeah, that's probably something I would do. Especially in Europe, they have those innovative washing machines that are also dryers. They have them here in Asia too, like I have one in my unit, and it works pretty well. It doesn't work as good as a dedicated dryer, but it does okay. But yeah, I would probably get my own washer. I know the kitchens have a dishwashing machine, and I wouldn't want that. I'd rather that spot have a washing machine in it, if it would fit. If not, I know they have the closet areas, and so maybe I could put a washing unit in the closet area. All of that's connected to the bathroom, so I'm assuming the plumbing would be easy to get to. So yeah. All right, I'm all caught up on questions. So if you got any more questions about anything travel or actually, I did this last time. I know we only have like 61 people in here, but spam in the chat if you would consider buying a place at Coliving Semkovo. Put a Y or an N, which is yes or no, and let me know if you would consider buying one of those if money was no option. Don't say no because you don't have the money, but if money was no option, would you consider buying a place there? Andrea says no. Andrea, you don't want to live in Bulgaria? Don says yes. Going cream up says yes. And if you have any more questions about travel or co-living Semkovo, throw them out there while we have these Co-Living Semkovo people in the audience. Thanks guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I know my audience appreciates it. You made this usually I talk about something in the beginning and there's a couple questions, and then we start talking about other traveling and investing stuff. But this one has been entirely Co-Living Semkovo, which has been really cool. Because people are interested in it, and there's people here to answer the more in-depth questions that I couldn't answer. So I really appreciate you guys showing up. Oh, there's a bunch of yeses in here. Andrea says it's an age thing for me. Andrea, age is just a number. Age is just a number. I remember when I did remote year, not in my remote year group, our oldest person was in their 50s. But in another remote year group that was traveling at the same time we were, there was a guy in that group that was almost 80 years old and had an amazing time on remote year with, even though he was the oldest in the group. And I know there's a lot of older people that have done remote year as well now. Looks like we've got an equal amount of yeses and nos. No, because it's not downtown, says Life's the Beach. You guys know I'm a very much an urban dweller. And so, but I do like mountain, like anytime I get an Airbnb in the United States, it's almost always in like a mountainous area, like Breckenridge or Boulder or somewhere like that. Somewhere where it's high in the mountains, fresh air, beautiful scenery, mountain scenery. So that appeals to me, especially if I have some urban conveniences like a grocery store, a restaurant on site. There's a pool, there's going to be a gym, there's laundry, there's going to be activities. Scott A says yes and maybe sell it later. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you can always sell it. I mean, who knows if it's going to go up or down in value, But I think if the community is vibrant, I think there's going to be a market for these units. Just from my own experience in the nomadic community, I think there'll definitely be a market, a resale market for the units, for sure. Especially once they're renovated and people aren't like taking a chance on it. Like people who are buying units now that aren't renovated, haven't seen them. If people see them like already renovated and they pay a price and that's it, and they know they're going to have their $200 a month utilities and condo association fee, I think resale is not going to be an issue. Nothing is guaranteed. Maybe the whole project falls apart. It's a failure. Nobody likes it there. There's brown bears running around all the time and everyone's scared to go outside. There's a million things that can happen, right? But it seems like the fact that they've sold so many units in a dream, like a place that when these initial buyers, when they were buying these units, like it was just a pipe dream. And at this point, units are getting renovated. You can see the co-living spaces, how amazing they look. And people are visiting every week. By the way, if you want to visit, you can go visit. They'll pick you up at the airport, take you to there, give you a tour. I think they do it weekly. And so you can visit you can fly to Sofia and enjoy wonderful Sofia. And as a side trip, go see Coliving Semkovo. But yeah, at a minimum, if you bought a place and you weren't happy with it, you'll probably be able to sell it, most likely. I mean, or at a minimum, put it in the rental pool, and at least be able to cover your $200 a month in expenses, maybe. So, Carolina says it seems more logical than buying a cabin on a cruise ship. When did it start? I want to say the idea is about 2 years old. Ian would be able to tell you, but I want to say it's like about 2 years old. I've been seeing it for a while in the community. We do monthly tours on the first Saturday of every month. Okay, good. How many people are living on location now? I'm curious. I know none of the owners are, but is Mateus living on location? Like, is there anybody living there right now? I'm curious about that. Freddie says, exciting to be watching this live stream. I'm one of the owners of the first units. Cool to see active chat here. Yeah, the one thing I regret is obviously all of the block A's are sold. But in the block B's, all of the outer units are sold. And the outer units, so the inner units have a view of the courtyard, and there's actually a pretty mountain as well, right there, that you can see from your balcony. But it's got a view of the courtyard and probably block A, the inner units of block A. It's going to be a beautiful view. It is a beautiful view, but the people that got the outer units, I'm sure, have the better views. Because then you have nothing but mountain and wilderness. So I'm sure it's like amazing. Where all the units remaining, I think there's one outer unit remaining, but it's a window unit. It's not a balcony unit. So all those went. So all the prime units have already went. So it'll be curious to see. I can't wait till people start showing their units renovated, like on social media and stuff. I'm super excited for it. Yes, we have a couple folks there full-time and also staff quarters for the construction crew during the week. Very cool. And yes, one of the full-time folks is Mateus now, also Oliver, one of the other owners. Very cool. Ian, so can an owner move in now, or is there an official move-in date for Block A? And when do the units in Block B start getting renovated? And when is it expected that the owners of Block B units can move in? Actually, when is the day that Block A can move in? And when is it anticipated that Block B owners can move in? Freddie says it's an amazing view everywhere. I have one of the court views in Block A. The Block B units also have amazing views. Very cool. I have wanted to see Bulgaria since I did a paper on the country in grade school. A unit with a balcony would be fantastic. Also, the communal kitchen looks fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it just looks like a really cool community. I'm a big introvert, so I like to be able to tap into that kind of stuff when I want to. And so, yeah, I can always just go hide in my unit when I don't want to deal with people. Story ID says, my sister bought a window unit. Your sister owns a unit too? So you own 2 units and your sister owns 1 unit, is that true? That's very cool. My sister bought a window unit on the Meadow Mountainside. It's nice as all the windows open and there's a bar top under the window. So it's like a balcony actually when you open it. That's so cool. You could move in now, but we don't have the final power, so I wouldn't advise it. It's living on a construction site. Okay. Block A units in January and Block B units in July. That actually worked out for me really well, being able to go to my unit in July. The only problem is I'm cruising Europe a lot before that, and I'd be running up against my Shenzhen time. That would really piss me off. That I'd have to wait until my clock reset to go and hang out in my unit. Growing Green Mom says, what do you mean final power? I think it means like the individual units having power, metered power to them, I think is what they mean. So you'd be living in a unit possibly without power in your unit. I know the co-living spaces have power now from the videos I've seen, but yeah. What are some of the factors for living in Semkovo versus another co-living community, mostly costs? So they actually have a good cost thing on the website. I can't remember exactly where it is, but it shows the price per month that you have to pay to live in a bunch of the other co-living communities. And it's anywhere from 700 to 800 euros somewhere like Honduras to like 1,600 a month in like Portugal. 1,600 euros, so more like $1,800 a month US, and like almost 1,000 a month in Honduras, like 800 or 900 a month. You'd be renting out a unit. I'm not sure if there's places where you can buy like this, but they have like this price comparison of like the top 20 co-living, co-working places. And I have stayed in a lot of those, like one in Portugal I stayed in, and basically it was like a big house with a bunch of like rooms you could rent out that were basically apartments. And I paid $2,200 a month in it. And it had a co-living space. That was, I can't remember the name of it. I'm trying to remember, it's like a famous brand. I can't remember the name of it though. I also rented out a unit in Porto Escondido at the Salina. I rented it out for a month and it was, I want to say $1,400 US for the month. So it's pretty affordable, but I mean, once you pay for the unit, you have your sunk cost, 35 to 50,000 US dollars. And then you have $200 a month, like electricity maintenance costs. So if you own the unit for 10 years, let's say you just prorated out 10 years, that's $5,000 a month or $5,000 a year over 10 years if you buy the most expensive unit. So that's like $400 a month. So even in the most expensive unit over a 10-year period, the prorated cost is going to be about $600 a month. And if you own it for much longer than that, then obviously your prorated costs go down. And that's if you get the most expensive unit, that's studio unit. Like you get the biggest balcony unit with a kitchen. So yeah, when you prorate it out, it's not that bad. I mean, obviously if you prorate it out 20 years, you're talking, $300 a month, $300 or $400 a month. So it can be pretty affordable. And the thing that really appeals to me is if owning a property at some point can lead to residency. That really appeals to me. Like a golden visa like in Portugal. That would really appeal to me. If there's some way that the lawyers of Coliving Semkovo could work on getting, if you can get the mayor involved, since it sounds like he has a direct line into the party that controls the country right now, you can get, if that's bringing all kinds of money to the place he's a mayor of, if somehow he could get something worked out with the government because that co-owned community is bringing in so much money that the individual owners could get some kind of golden visa residency permit that an investor can get because of the money that it's bringing in, right? Because it's such a huge, like if you take the value of the place, it definitely meets the requirements if you owned it individually, the value of the whole place. It definitely meets the investment requirement. But since it's a bunch of co-owners, could you get it's 80 co-owners of whatever the place is valued at? Could the lawyers work it out with the government that the co-owners could get some kind of golden visa like you get in Portugal and other countries? I think that would be something interesting to explore. I mean, that would be immensely valuable to me. If I could get a golden visa, then I'd be able to freely travel in Europe without worrying about anything. That would be amazing. How does Romania compare to Bulgaria? I love Romania. I think they're very similar. People from Bulgaria and Romania would hate to say that they're comparable, but I think they're very comparable. I think Budapest and Sofia, I get them mixed up in my mind a lot. So yeah. And Bucharest, I get all of them mixed up in my mind from visiting them. I'm going to read some of Story ID's responses here. We have solar and generator and temporary construction power. The meters aren't live yet for the individual units. That's what we talked about earlier. There's also nature. Some are urban and mountains. Many are beach. And the pros of Bulgaria, EU, NATO, for me, were all things to consider. Let's see. All right, I think we're going to call this a live chat. Thanks again for the moderators, everyone who attended, and obviously a special thanks to the people from, actually, hold on, I got another question. Have you ever thought about long-term living in my home country of Costa Rica? I have. I really like Costa Rica. That would be somewhere I would consider, Apple G. I love Costa Rica. Okay, so yeah, thanks to everyone from, all the owners from Coliving Semkovo. I keep wanting to say co-working Banksco. Coliving Semkovo, for coming in here and answering so many questions. And I'll probably make my decision in the next 30 days whether I'm going to buy a place there or not. I really wish I could visit first, but I'm over here in the Philippines and that's a long flight. I will be in Europe Oh man, you know what? My last cruise ends in May. Well, I'm trying to think if I have a space between the cruises I'm on. I don't think I do. No, I don't. My last cruise ends May 3rd. I'll be up against the clock with my Shenzhen time though. But that would be in May. Who knows if there'll be units available. Anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by. Thanks again to all the people from Coliving Semkovo for providing such great information and helping making this super informative. Hopefully it works out and it sells some units for you. And it definitely helped me understand it a little better and move closer to possibly buying a unit. So I appreciate that. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care.